guys, this is Lalana. Thank you for tuning into the Sovereign Path. So today we're going to talk about romantic union with the twin flame, and how romantic union in a twin flame dynamic, if this is what you are seeking, this is actually how you keep it at arm's length. So the path of the twin flame is a path back to self. It's a path into the ascension process. It's a path out of the matrix. It's a path back into the embodiment of your higher self and union with God, source, creation, all that is. So that being said, it is a path that is shifting the divine feminine. We'll talk about the divine masculine as well, but that is shifting the divine feminine out of the programming and the belief systems and the imprints and the ego systems that run in the third dimensional reality. So when we're looking at a twin flame dynamic, and I talk about this a lot, twin flame dynamics, the sacred union, the inner union, all of these things that we hear everyone talking about on the twin flame path, these things exist in the higher aspects. They don't exist in the third dimension. They exist in the fifth dimension and higher. This is why ascension is essential to this path. And this is why I say all the time, the key component and sign to know that you are potentially on a twin flame path is if you're awakening and if you're going through an ascension process. If you're not awakening and you're not going through an ascension process, then you are not on a twin flame path at this point. This means that you are not in a twin flame dynamic at this point. Doesn't mean that that can't happen, but this is the number one thing that has to be happening, no negotiation, for a twin flame to know that they are on a twin flame path. You are ascending, you are awakening, your ego death is happening, dark night of the soul, and you are alchemizing the lower aspects of the chakra system into the higher aspects, into the crown chakra and above. This is the key component to a twin flame dynamic, and this is why twins are here. So when we're consistently focusing on the romantic union, the romantic aspect, the 3D physical person, how all of these things are going to play out, just know that all of those things, although they're absolutely normal, especially in the beginning stages of the path, and certainly in the middle stages as well, to just be trying to understand this with your mind, to be trying to figure this out. This is why we do videos like this. This is why we watch videos like this, right? To try to understand what is actually going on. And the paradox of that is that you actually, the further you go along on the twin flame path, so I should say the further you go along on the ascension path, the more that these things that are going on in your mind and the questions that are coming up and all of these programs that are still coming up to the surface and asking for attention, and your ego's trying to navigate this and make sense of it all, the more you ascend, the more these things fade away, the more the programs start to break down. So it starts out feeling like and looking like this is a third dimensional relationship, but in truth, this is a fifth dimensional connection, dynamic, and higher. As I say before, twin flames are not in a romantic relationship. They're not in a relationship. The twin flame is you. The twin flame is your soul incarnate here to shift you out of the third dimensional matrix programming and to come in to yourself and back up into the higher aspects of you and to stabilize in those higher dimensions. So that being said, when we are wanting that physical romantic relationship based on the romantic relationships that we have experienced prior in our lifetime and in past lifetimes as well, that means that we are still operating from the third dimensional aspect of ego. We are still operating from the place of separation. Twins do not operate in separation. This is what creates all that push and pull that we're all talking about, all the on and off and the back and forth, is because twin flames do not operate from a separation lens. This is why it's so difficult when you meet a twin and you're automatically trying to come at it from the same programming that you've had all your life. The twin is coming in to shift you out of that programming and into the higher aspects of you. This is an awakening process. And so coming at this from a physical ego separation place will always keep that romantic union at arm's length. It will always keep the romantic aspect of this dynamic on and off, back and forth, up and down, in and out, all of those sort of things, because it cannot, literally, twin flames cannot hold the third dimensional template in traditional romantic relationships. They are literally here to break that template. We have the codes within us as twin flames to break that old romantic, relationship template, the idea around fantasy that, only all love is only romantic, and this whole fantasy idea that we have been sort of bought and sold in this reality. Twin flames hold the keys to break that. This is why they can't operate in a traditional third dimensional romantic relationship that we're all used to, because the vibrational frequency that twin flames are holding do not allow them to play those games together, right? This is what creates the on and off and back and forth. So as a twin flame, if you are not going through an ascension process and you don't know that you're a twin flame yet, certainly you can have all of those other relationships, the karmic connections, the soulmate relationships. Those are basically, shifting you to the point of coming back into union with self, coming back into the awakening process. So there are certainly things that the twins do before they're aware that they're twins, before they're awake, before they have met in the physical. All of these things are going to happen. And so it isn't a gauge of saying, well, if I'm a twin and you're saying that means that I can't have normal romantic relationship. You can. Not with your twin, you can. Because this is your same soul. This is your same energetic system. And that energetic system is basically breaking through the old system. And so when you come in romantic, traditional partnership when you try to with your twin, you're literally coming at it with a frequency that is too low for the twin flame dynamic to hold, right? That's the best way I can probably say that. So we descend into the matrix. We descend into the third dimensional reality, right? We have to come down several notches to be able to exist here. And in saying that, we are still holding those frequencies. It's not like you descended and now you're not a soul anymore. Now you're not a light being, or now you're not an energetic being anymore. You still are. You're still holding all the coding. You're still holding all that DNA, all of those things. That hasn't shifted. It's just been dormant, right? This is why they call it asleep. You're asleep if you're in the third dimensional reality until you go through an awakening, which unlocks all of those dormant codes that have been sitting there waiting for that Kundalini awakening to shift everything up and come back into the chakra, right? Crown chakra. So that is what this is. That's what's happening here on a twin flame dynamic. So if you look at it from that angle, I actually cannot hold a low enough vibrational frequency to be in romantic relationship with my twin. That's why you're going off and on and in and out and arguing and up and down and all of these things, because that frequency that you carry, that energetic blueprint that you both carry, becomes automatically triggered when it encounters itself and it tries to interact in a way that it knows that it can't interact, right? So if you're constantly hoping for that romantic union, that's how far you're going to be away from it. It's always going to be at arm's length. We can't come at these connections from the 3D. This is the reason that the Divine Masculine is coming in and triggering all of your programs and all of your belief systems and all of your stuff to make you break free from them, to make you shift out of them and come back into that fifth dimensional frequency and above, which is who you are, which is what you carry. This is what you've always been. We're just in an amnesic state here in the 3D, experiencing separation. But we are not separate. You and your twin are never, ever separate. You are one energetic system that is constantly united. It looks like you're separate. This is why it doesn't work when you're coming into looking at this from a third dimensional romantic aspect, because you're looking like this is him and this is me, or this is her, or this is him, however it works. And so I'm looking at you like you're separate from me, like everybody else has been separate from me that I've ever been in a romantic relationship with, right? Even if you're in the soul family, same soul family, you don't carry the exact same soul blueprint. So if I'm dating someone and yeah, we're in the same soul family, maybe if it's a karmic or a soulmate, but you are not my same energetic blueprint. You are not sharing my exact same soul. Your twin is. So I can be in romantic partnership with someone who is literally not me. And that is a separation consciousness happening, right? That's part of the experience in the 3D. And we can play those out, and we're here to play those out. But when it comes to interacting with my same soul, with my same self, who I'm never separate from, I cannot come into interaction with that same soul who is me from that same place of saying, you're separate from me, you're different from me, you're over there and I'm over here. The energy is always like going, but no, I'm not. And so it's like this friction kind of thing that's always sort of playing out, because we're seeing them as separate from us when they're not separate from us. It's one unified field, so it's always working with itself, right? It's always mirroring itself. It's always doing all of these things. And so we have to treat it as that, right? We have to treat it as that. This is why the ascension process is absolutely crucial and non-negotiable on the twin flame path. It is shifting you out of the 3D. It's shifting you back into unity consciousness. The 3D is separation consciousness. Separation consciousness, twin flames cannot be in sacred union. Sacred union doesn't exist in separation consciousness, because sacred union is unity. It is actually the whole. It's the one. It's the complete. So the twin flame comes in to shift you back into unity consciousness, which is what you have always been, which is what you always are. This is where sacred union can take place. So this is why I'm always harping on these things over and over again. In order to be a true twin flame and on a true twin flame path, you have to be ascending. You have to be awakening. It's not something that can be like, oh, well, maybe it's this, or no, it's not. It's either you're ascending and awakening and going through an alchemization process, or you're not. It's one or the other. And it doesn't mean that you can't go through those processes at some time, when your higher self deems that that's when your timer's going to go off, you're ready to awaken. But until that happens, a twin flame dynamic is not playing out, because the whole purpose of a twin flame dynamic is for you to awaken. It is to shift you out of the separation lens, which is telling you that you need to go after them and be in romantic traditional relationship with them. But twin flames are here to birth sacred union, which is unity consciousness, which can't exist in the 3D, right? Does that make sense? And so this is why I'm always saying, if you're chasing them, it's never going to happen. And it isn't just a matter of, well, law of attraction says if I chase something, then it runs. If I put something out, that I'm in a lack frequency, then a lack frequency is going to come back. This is true. I teach a lot about manifestation and law of attraction. This is true. But it doesn't react necessarily in the same way when we're talking about twin flames and twin flame energy and the one unified field. It's not exactly the same as typical manifestation or law of attraction that we have been taught, right? We're coming out of the separation. This is the whole point. We're coming out of separation consciousness and into unity consciousness, which we've always been. And so in order for that process to take place, you have to be going through a full-blown spiritual Kundalini awakening. You have to be going through those things. And so, as I'm always saying, don't chase them, because it's not that they're going to run, because per law of attraction, you're running a lack frequency, which is true. If you're running a lack frequency, that's not going to be good, because it's going to be harder for you to heal out of that. And if that's what's going on, because we are attached and all of those things, those are certainly things that we need to look at through shadow work, etc. But the main thing here is that if you're chasing them, you're chasing yourself. You're literally chasing yourself, which I know is a very broad concept for all of us to really grasp, and the mind can't make sense of that, and the ego certainly can't make sense of that. But one energetic system, as I said, one unified field means you're always working together. So if you're chasing that aspect of you, then that aspect of you is always going to be in a separation consciousness, because you haven't shifted into the awareness that we are one unified field. We're one energy. We are not separate, right? So if we're not separate, then why am I chasing that? Because you're still working from a separation conscious in the 3rd D, and because your twin is trying to push you into that spiritual awakening so that you shift into unity consciousness in the 5th dimension and above, where the potential for coming back into sacred union in the physical can take place. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that makes sense. Have an awesome day.